So I just lost a job opportunity because I'm a digital nomad. And if you're new here, my name is Zenon. I've been a digital nomad for about 3.5 years. I'm from Canada originally. And today I've been scheduled to basically talk to a recruiter that messaged me on LinkedIn. And she wanted to talk about me exploring a job opportunity. I'm not exactly looking for something new, but I said, okay, why not? Let's schedule a time to meet on Monday. And when it came down to it, she was asking for a phone number. I'm in Brazil, so I'm not really trying to hide that. So I just told her, hey, I'm in Brazil. I'm not, I have no plans to return to Canada anytime in the future. Let me know if that still works for you guys. And unfortunately, it didn't. And this led me to ask a question. Are digital nomads unhireable? And that's an interesting question because they're not unhireable. We're not unhireable. But the real question is, what is keeping people from hiring digital nomads? And it's an interesting question because as the world becomes more and more global, there's so much talent around the world. Um, and so it's really playing into the whole phenomena of hiring overseas when people are moving overseas at the same time. For example, as an anecdote, we have an entrepreneur in the family, and he hires people from Brazil, for instance. And, this is an anecdote, but it's based on a true story. And he had an employee who was Brazilian, but he lives in Canada, collects a Canadian wage. He moved back to Brazil to spend some time there, if I'm not mistaken. And so it was like an interesting question where it's like you're hiring Brazilian talent, but because they hold a Canadian passport, that's pretty much the only thing that moves them up in income to the other layer that's higher than the actual Brazilians that he has working at his company on other teams. And so it's an interesting question because what exactly, you know, is the benefit of hiring a digital nomad if they're living in Brazil versus a Brazilian, because one is going to charge you a lot more money and the other one isn't. And so what I think this comes down to is it's really a question of marketing and how well you're able to position yourself. Because if you're the best in the world at something and you're Brazilian, it doesn't really matter. People are going to pay you the best in the world prices. Um, but I guess that since people are coming from first, maybe not first tier countries, but more Western, North American, what they call like the first world, since people are coming from those countries, I think that comes with a lot more like recognition, brand recognition, you could say. And I think people feel more comfortable paying those people high wages because they have a better idea of what to expect in terms of the actual deliverables from that person. Um, and there's also some other reasons that people don't really like to hire digital nomads that I've encountered. For example, there's legal complications. If you pay as a digital nomad when you're working abroad, it's not always super above board. For example, like if you go work, you're working online from Canada, and then you go to Mexico or the United States, you're not really supposed to be working there without a work visa. And even though you might be working for a Canadian company, it just gets kind of gray area and it really depends on each country's laws. So there is some sort of like legal complications. Also, this is in my case, I'm trying to become a tax resident of somewhere else outside of Canada. More on that later in a future video. But a lot of people don't want to pay abroad outside of Canada because there's tax benefits to hiring Canadians, for example, like you may be eligible for grants or for other stuff. It keeps your own taxes a lot easier because you can just, they're one more employee in the whole batch of employees. And there's less time zone issues. It's just a lot more safe to hire somebody from the country that you're from versus hiring abroad because you know exactly what to expect. And if there's no real edge, I think that's what it comes down to. If there's no real edge of why to hire the digital nomad, they're not really going to get hired. So a lot of us digital nomads, we have to really think about what that edge is for us and find a way to become better at the job than other people. And aside from that, there is a little bit of like a lack of trust. So I've been thinking about this, and there's a couple different types of digital nomads. There is, for example, like the remote worker who just decided, hey, why don't I go travel a little bit? And their company said, okay. There's the self-employed individual, which is like, let's say you have like an online business or something like that, or maybe you're running an agency. Doesn't really matter where you were ever. So you can go move abroad or whatever you want to do. And it doesn't really change much because you were probably working online the whole time anyways. And then there's kind of those people who are hired fully remotely as a digital nomad and the company doesn't really care. And generally with those people, they have to be either, quite good at their job or there has to be a lot of trust established already. So those people are going to get hired by, business owners that they already knew, or they're going to get hired as, A-list talent. And I've seen that for a lot of engineering jobs back in the past. I mean, I think engineering jobs have dried up a lot recently. But back in the day, recruiters were throwing everything at engineers, you know, unlimited paid time off, work from wherever you want. They were basically willing to give them the kitchen sink just to secure that A-list talent. And so if you're working in AI as an AI engineer, you might still get that kind of treatment. But yeah, those are the reasons that I see digital nomads having a hard time being hired. And yeah, so this is a bit of a problem if you're trying to become a digital nomad. Generally, I think the easiest way is to get remote first employment and then, make that transition once that trust is established. Really upskill yourself and become really proficient at one online skill, whether that's web design, media buying, email marketing, whatever kind of skill you can learn and really add value and kind of like go deep on that skill and specialize in it. That's going to help you become a digital nomad. And yeah, I mean, there are some trade-offs when you become a digital nomad. Like, you do miss out on career opportunities, like I've talked about in this video, because that recruiter is one example of all the companies that don't want to hire people who are living outside of Canada or wherever you're from. And that's the norm. Most people don't. So if you're actually looking to make very quick strides in your career life, really increase your income as fast as possible, there's going to be some trade-offs because either you're going to have to stay where the money is or you're going to have to kind of make some sacrifices. But the good news is that those sacrifices are often worth it and they can lead to better income in the future. So like, for example, if you make 100K in Canada, let's just, for easy math here, say that you pay 40% in taxes. So I mean, the cost of living is going to be much higher in Canada than it will be in a place like Panama. But if you were to move to Panama, where there's only a territorial tax system set up, you basically won't get taxed on the income that you generate from outside of Panama. So they only look at Panamanian sourced income when you're filing your taxes. So in Canada, let's say your income tax rate is 40%, so you keep 60,000 and then your rent might be 1,500, you're paying groceries, you need a car, all that good stuff. So maybe at the end of the day, you keep 40, 30, probably 30. I think we can say that. So, in Canada, you might make 100K, but you might only keep 30. Whereas in Panama, if you make 80K and you keep 80K and the cost of living is, 20K compared to 30, you're going to make out like a bandit. You're going to make more money and keep more money when you actually look at the bank statements month after month. So in my perspective, being a digital nomad is still worth it. I'm not going back to Canada anytime soon. I'll go broke before I go back to Canada. Nothing against Canada. It's kind of like the mashed potatoes of the world in terms of culture. It's very like plain. It needs something, it needs some sort of spices mixed in my experience. So yeah, no plans on moving back to Canada anytime in the future here. I'd rather just figure it out. And that's what I'm working on, figuring it out. And I want to help you guys figure it out too, because I am building a project. This is actually day 14 of building a $10,000 a month online business while I travel the world. And, I make my money as a subcontractor doing digital marketing, but I'm creating a business on the side called Nomadic Blueprint. I'm going to put the link in the bio of the video. And I basically want to help people become digital nomads because I really love this lifestyle and I'd love to help share it with more people and basically help facilitate that transition for more people. So it's very much still in development. You can consider us to be 5-10% along the way. But if you're interested in becoming a digital nomad, or if you want to make the transition from remote work to digital nomad, or if you're a digital nomad who is already, out there, but you just want to work more asynchronously and not have to be, in maybe a couple of different countries, I think that those are the type of people that I'm looking to help with my project. So if you're interested in something like that, make sure you just go down to the description, click the first link, nomadicblueprint.com, and put your email in there and your name, because I'd love to keep you updated on how the project is going as it comes along. And I'd also appreciate your feedback, because a big component of the project is going to be talking to digital nomads and kind of getting their stories and bringing it to the forefront so that other people can learn from it. And then also getting feedback from people who are aspiring digital nomads and getting a better idea of what kind of resources would help you out. So if that's of interest, make sure you hit the first link in the video description. And other than that, that's it for today. We'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm filming every single day somehow until we hit that goal. So we'll see you guys tomorrow for day number 15. Take care.